Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Sub-Lieutenant Jack Ludlow. This evening we warmly welcome the family of Lance Sergeant Ellis Norman Allan, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Sergeant Ellis Norman Allan. Ellis Allan was born around 1893 in Ballarat, Victoria. Affectionately known as Norm, he was the youngest of 6 children, born to William and Emily Allan. He received his education at Urquhart Street State School alongside his siblings. When Norm was about 15 years old, his father William died. At some point in his youth, Norm Allan moved to Western Australia, where he worked as a sawyer at Brown's Timber Mill in the town of Greenbushes. Norm Allan was amongst the first in Western Australia to enlist, joining the 11th Battalion on the 8th of September 1914. Allocated the rank of private, he spent just a few weeks training in Australia. His unit embarked from Fremantle on board the troop ship Ascanius on the 31st of October that year. Private Allan arrived in Egypt in early December 1914. There he continued training with his unit and injured his hand and his feet during an accident. His injuries later became infected and he spent almost 12 months in hospital, assisting the Red Cross while he was out of action. In December 1915, the Gallipoli campaign was abandoned and his unit returned to Egypt, where he rejoined it in January of 1916. Shortly after, he contracted mumps and was sent to hospital for the second time. He rejoined his battalion at the end of February 1916 and the following month embarked for France. Private Allan arrived in Marseille in April. From there, his unit was sent north to the Somme region of France, where heavy fighting had been taking place for almost 2 years. He took part in his first major battle of the Western Front in July 1916 at the French village of Pozières. The Allies were attempting to recapture the village and take the high ground along the ridge. Over 42 days, 9 attacks were made against German positions. Eventually, the village was taken and some gains toward the ridge were made. These small victories were not without cost. By the end of the battle, Australian units had suffered over 23,000 casualties. Among their number was Private Norm Allan, who went missing in action on the 25th of July, 1916. Allan remained missing for several days, but was eventually located and sent to hospital, suffering from shell shock. He rejoined his unit at the end of August 1916, when it was sent briefly to the trenches near Ypres in Belgium. In October 1916, a few months after being hospitalised with shell shock, Allan was given 14 days hard labour as punishment for abandoning his post. Later that month, he was promoted to Lance Corporal and removed from frontline duties on detachment. In 1917, the focus of Allied operations shifted to the Ypres salient in Belgium, where Allan rejoined his unit in July. He was then promoted to Lance Sergeant before his next major battle at Menin Road. On the 20th of September 1917, an intense artillery barrage was launched against enemy lines. At 5:40 a.m, the 1st and 2nd Australian Divisions attacked the German positions, attempting to take sections of the high ground along West Turk. They encountered heavy resistance from the enemy, who were well entrenched and in defensive pillboxes. The Australians managed to capture their objective, but at the cost of more than 5,000 casualties. During the attack, Lance Sergeant Norm Allan was hit by enemy machine gun fire and was badly wounded in his back. He died of his wounds the next day. He was buried at the Hutt Cemetery, Belgium. Norm Allan was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Sergeant Ellis Norman Allan, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.